All right. Thought I would show just one more quick thing that occurred to me. I don't like the fact that the wolf can, wind up being in the same position as the player. We would rather just say that two things can never occupy the same space in the grid. And really, the wolf doesn't need to be on top of us to attack us. That seems fine. So, what I want to do is go ahead and say, where's our function right here? We want to go ahead and see if we need to move, right? So, in fact, we can go ahead and do this. Let's make a function. We're gonna call it abs, right? For absolute, and it's gonna take an int in, and it's gonna say if in is less than 0, then we're gonna return negative in, or just negate it, so it's gonna become positive. Otherwise, we're just gonna return in. And I want to go ahead and say right here that, all right, hey, if um, if abs of diff.x is greater than 1 and abs of diff.y is greater than 1, no, we're going to do this. We're going to say or that, right? If either of them is greater than 1, we're going to move the creature, right? But if both of them are equal to 1, then we aren't actually going to move at all, right? And that should go ahead and do what we want right here. Okay, and it does still sometimes overlap, but not always. And the reason it overlaps is because we are looking at, we're treating the W as the position of the creature, right? And maybe that isn't exactly what we want, right? Like maybe we want to kind of treat it like there's a box around this creature. Um, and we want to find the closest point where the player is. So, like, right here, if the player moved to the right and they were, like, over the W, we want to say, all right, hey, there isn't, there isn't that much space between them here, so go ahead and move appropriately, right? I'm trying to think what the best way to probably do that is. Yeah, so what we want to do is say we have a struct position, which is going to be closest point, right? And we're going to start and say that the closest point dot x equals the well, we'll just start saying this is the creature position, right? Now what we're going to want to do is go ahead and loop over all of the glyphs that make up this creature, right? And we want to see if any of those points are actually closer to the creature than what we have, right? So right here, what we want to do is say, we'll go ahead and we'll call this glyph position, and we're going to say that that's just going to be equal to the creature glyphs of I dot position, right? I'm just going to be copying it into this variable so I don't have to type out creature of glyphs I dot position every time. I can just say glyph pos from now on. So if trying to think what the best way to do this is with whole numbers. I think this should work. We can say that, all right, if the x is less than closest point dot x or dot y is less than closest point dot y, then closest point now equals the glyph position, right? And here, what we will do is instead of using the creature's position, we will use the glyph's position, right? That should be good. Did I? Oh, yeah, because I want to use closest position or closest point. Is what I called it. Maybe I'll call it closest position. I think point is maybe a little too mathematical for what we're doing, since we're dealing with integers, not just arbitrary points in 3D space. And again, I want to make that change there. That doesn't really seem right to me. Yeah, because we want to be checking the absolute value of that to the absolute value of that, right? Because again, if it's negative, that doesn't necessarily make it closer, right? Because, if something is -1 unit to the left versus 4 units to the right, well, it's still better to just go -1 than it is to try to go 4, right? Let's see. Why might that not be working? Let's go ahead and look at what's actually happening. So I'm going to go ahead and move up. And we're moving 1 unit to the right. So it's like it's treating the closest position as something that it isn't. We'll go ahead and make sure I don't have any obvious typos here. What if I say that they both have to be? I'll go ahead and change those to less than or equal. But we're going to say it has to be closest in both respects, which again, that's not working. All right, let's just go ahead and put some printfs in here. I'm going to say, oh, yeah, well that's that's why. It's very silly. We need to be looking at the diff. I was reading closest position as the diff the whole time. So we can say we'll call this, I don't know, glyph diff equals sub of player dot position and glyph pos. And here, what we are going to say, yeah, we can, yeah, put it right there, and I'm going to go ahead and copy it here. When we get a new position, we need to compute a new diff, right? And we want to say, all right, hey, if the glyph diff is less than the regular diff, or glyph diff is less than the regular diff, okay, cool. Which is exactly what we want, right? Now, really, the only issue is that the player can wind up moving on top. But you see, you know, when we go up there, we, you know, we walk the whole length, right? And now the wolf starts chasing us. But it knows this whole time, it's like, hey, I don't need to chase you. You're right next to me. And then you start running away, and it's like, all right, I'm going to try to eat you. All right. So that is pretty cool. And a little more robust, a little more practical, right? So now we don't have such weird movements. Now, something that we can go ahead and do is a little basic collision detection. We can say this thing, we're going to call it move is valid, right? And we're going to pass in a try position, and then we are going to pass in struct creature, right? And here, what we are going to do is say, I can just go ahead and copy paste this from above, right? We want to say if if equal try position creature dot position, then return false. If we never hit one, then we're going to return true, right? So here we are going to try doing this, right? We're going to say we're going to have this thing called try position, which is going to be equal to the player dot position. Then here we're going to say that everywhere. And we are going to say, all right, hey, if, well, I just forget what I called that function. Yeah, if move is valid, and we can do this try position and creature, then player dot position equals position. Otherwise, sorry, try position. Otherwise, then we failed to make the move, and nothing will happen. Is it oh, yeah, because we have its struct position. All right, so we move up. Well, okay, we shouldn't be able to move up like that. Oh, because I'm checking creature dot position every time, but we want to check creature dot glyphs I dot position, right? So you see, you know, I can move here. I'm going to keep trying to move up, and nothing happens. You know, I'm probably getting mauled by the wolf, right? And, you know, just to make sure that this works, I'm going to keep typing attack, and it doesn't look like the wolf is dying, which I think makes sense because we aren't checking creature. Let's just look for health. Yeah, so actually, that's actually kind of cool now that I think about it. That we're still drawing the wolf, right? So let's go up here. I'm gonna do attack, attack. Then I'll go back to normal mode, and the wolf isn't moving because I slew the beast. Cool. All right, so that should do it for that. Go ahead and let me know if you have any questions. I don't think there was anything too new with what we did. Like, I was probably moving at a little faster pace than normal, just, changing code, moving things around. There's probably, the new math concepts we introduced are certainly a little new and different, like, checking the absolute value of things and doing all this glyph position, the difference in finding the closest point. Like, honestly, this should become find closest point or something like that, right? Where we can go ahead and just take in some number of positions and go ahead and find the closest point to them. But for right now, I think we are fine without that.